So I want to review this episode of the Boondocks called Stinkmeaner 3, The Hateocracy. And what happens in this episode is that what I will say first of all is that this is definitely the one of the best fight sequences in all the Boondocks. Like if you really want to show the Boondocks and how great they do fight sequences, this is possibly the best episode. And I would also even say that this is like the best episode with a storyline around fight sequences that no other episode does, like I think fight sequences that well. A good second place would be Stinkmeaner too, but this is done very very well. And what happens is that it opens with a dream where Robert is being attacked by an army of Stinkmeaner clones, and it's actually interesting because that happens in the fourth episode, so in the fourth season. So you can kind of say this is foreshadowing, or isn't it them stealing an idea? But it's also kind of a funny dream because it is like a horror dream, but you also kind of see what Robert does is that in that situation, through his psychology, through his subconscious, you see him like, just not helping Huey and Riley, taking Jasmine and throwing her downstairs into the pile of stinkmeaners, and also pushing Tom so he gets killed by the stinkmeaners and allowing Uncle Ruckus and other people. So he's just always pushing, he's always trying to like use everybody as a human shield to make sure he's safe. And then when Granddad wakes up, he's like, Huey and Riley, I live, and you die. I live, and you die. So you kind of see, like, in the core of Granddad, what he is he's a very, very, very selfish, me first type of person. I do not think he's a sociopath. I just think that very evidentially he does not like to sacrifice himself for others. And I can even say like, I should do a video on that, and maybe like from his past maybe it's a respond to trauma maybe. But I do think that that it's very very evidential that he's a very very selfish human being, and then he also has no sense of how his actions hurt other people around him, like inviting crazy women to the house, or getting in a fight with Stinkmeaner and just saying, what, spare my grandkids, spare the community, like take it out on me. There's always a sense of him trying to save his own neck, or just understanding that since problems are coming to his family and other people that he cares about, it takes a bigger person to say, what, you want me, come after me. Nobody else is responsible but me. So, and also you can see it as like kind of like an allegory of living with guilt, or how some people like just always want revenge. Even in death, people want revenge. So it is kind of the consequences of begrudging, but also the consequences of somebody seeking vengeance. So when he wakes up, what happens is that there's this nursing home with three people, and they're kind of based off the characters from Jefferson, like Lamont. No, that show with Red Fox, Sanford and Son. So one of them is based off of the old lady, like the one that he calls Buffalo. But then there's Lamont, and then there's Fred Sanford. And also too, they wear like very fancy clothing. So like the men both wear like black tuxedos and a black tie. So that's a reference to Reservoir Dog, and also Kill Bill, because the Crazy 88s, even though the Crazy 88s were inspired by Lady Snowblood, which is a great film you should check out, definitely anytime you see like tuxedos or anything really really nice, you think of a few Quentin Tarantino films. You think Reservoir Dogs, you think of Pulp Fiction, and then you also think of Kill Bill. So it's definitely very interesting just to see all those elements. And unlike the Good Time episode, I really think that they're very very subtle, so it doesn't feel like they're trying to say, oh well, we're referencing Quentin Tarantino, oh well, we're referencing Good Times. Like, because once they did the Good Times episode, they had like the Good Times musical score, and then they did cutaways to things that were irrelevant, like hanging in a chow line or whatever. I do think that they lost the plot here. Like, definitely their leader, their leader in the Hateocracy, like how he has like a crab trap that turns into a flying guillotine. That's a reference, I think, to Go-Go, or onto JoJo or Go-Go, like that girl in Kill Bill, like who has the Morning Star that has like a blade in it when she's fighting Uma Thurman. Like she's the one like in the schoolgirl outfit, and and I also think like I also think like it's a really cool episode to see all the fight sequences, and I also kind of think that when you see Huey and Riley fight them, it kind of sends the ultimate theme of how sometimes with grudges and nigga moments, unfortunately like people's kids get involved, or and sometimes people's young kids, so they're brought up around violence and whatever. So I do think that while you watch this episode for its fun sequences, it's definitely an episode that shows the consequences of a cycle of violence, and that's why people need to stop. And I also think that another thing that you kind of like get from this episode is just because Robert wasn't the better man, he has to live under so much stress and anxiety and nightmares. So sometimes you got to let some things go, or else you're going to just cause a problem. And sometimes that person's going to be like Captain Ahab and treat you like Moby Dick. Like they're always going to spend their life hunting you, and that's not great. Or vice versa. You may like pick a fight with somebody, and then you may be like, I'm Captain Ahab, you're Moby Dick, I'm not going to let it go. So sometimes, you have to win a battle or lose or surrender or be the better person just to win the war, or win the long-term game. And I've definitely made that mistake. And that's a very, very important life lesson. I also think that with Bushido Brown, I also think that the thing you learn from him is that he is somebody that's going to exploit the Freemans, like be like, how much is your life worth for whatever. So there are some people who just don't care about other people. They don't care about humanity. They care more so about being like, okay, this person's afraid, or this person needs a bodyguard, or this person needs help. But I'm instead of just what's the word, charging a reasonable price, or even like being like, I'm going to help my fellow man, I'm going to exploit my fellow man, is his philosophy, and he ultimately pays for that. And the other thing that I do like about this episode is that in the fight sequences, I always like how they have characters lose, because when you saw the first fight sequence between Bushido Brown and Huey in the episode Let's Snap Oprah, a lot of people thought Huey was going to win, and then he gets punched in the gut by, and then high jump kicked by Bushido Brown. And that's good because you can't kind of have invincible characters, because that becomes unrealistic. Or even like in the episode where Stinkmeaner comes back, really, that, with the fact that, it was actually Riley who beats him, because Riley keeps hitting him in the head with like different, like just different expensive like things around the house. It works in a couple of ways. It kind of shows it kind of gives the Stinkmeaner a weakness, which is that he's so much into his grudge and killing Robert, he doesn't see that he's letting his guard down. But also in this one, you kind of see that you think Bushido Brown is unbeatable, but then you realize he really isn't, and the only way and it's just like what you see also in Naruto as well, that there's an X factor, that it wasn't a one-on-one fight, it was a 3-on-1. And anybody can kind of say if you had 3 Bushido Browns, obviously, you would, if you had 3 Bushido Browns, or Bushido Brown said, I'm going to fight you guys one by one, really, and like one at a time, more than likely he would have won, really. So I like how they kind of give you they suspend your disbelief, but also just like with Naruto, they're good at kind of saying, well, he would have won if it was a fair fight, or if this thing happened or that thing happened. Like people talk about like, and like with Might Guy and Naruto, like how he used the inner 8 gates. If he wasn't in a situation where he was using the 7th gate and expending so much energy, maybe he would have defeated Madara. Or what would have happened when it was Naruto versus Pain, that actually if Pain didn't fight the Leaf Village first, and if he didn't fight the Leaf Village first, like more than and he didn't decide to use all that energy in his body to resurrect all the people that he killed in his invasion of the Leaf Village, more than likely he would have enough energy to defeat Naruto. So, and it's good because it gives you a sense of like, like it kind of makes you wonder like how would have played out if it would have gone in a fair fight, or things were like a little different, or there wasn't a handicap And I kind of like that because that's also true with real life. And Naruto was a master of that, and you see that in this episode. Like, how would a Bushido Brown fared if it was actually a fair one-on-one fight versus a three-on-one fight? And then the next thing that I would kind of say is that that with Bushido Brown being killed, it's also kind of a symbol as well of how that sometimes when people get killed over dumb things, or nigga moments or other things like that, like the thing is that sometimes people just get into fights because they represent a gang or they want to show how tough they are or show how machismo or show for the internet. But if they get killed or whatever, people are not concerned about them being dead. Maybe family, maybe for a day or two, but life goes on. So sometimes you look at people like Bushido Brown, even though he's world renowned, he's a great fighter and whatever, the Freemans and whoever don't really care about him. The same way, if you're having a fight, or if you're part of a gang and you're asked to fight people or asked to have nigga moments and you end up getting killed, it's not like that gang is going to care about you or remember who you are a couple of days later. So it's not worth engaging in conflicts. And I also think that when Robert apologizes to them and he's the better person, and explains that the reason why he fought Stinkmeaner is because he got embarrassed. I'm sorry. It's also kind of important that they don't accept his apology, and they said that even though you killed Stinkmeaner, we don't care about him. We just care about chaos and havoc. And they still want to hurt the Freemans. It's also a good thing because that's realism. There are some people that don't care about that just don't care, that have no motivation or don't care about who they lose. They only care about being an agent of chaos, to quote the Joker. And unfortunately, people like that exist in this world. So I like how this episode gives those people special attention because that's part of reality. But that's also one of the motivations why we never start fights in the first place, because sometimes that person you start a fight with is crazy, or they know people who are crazy who will use that as a motivation to avenge, or not to avenge but to harass. And then the Hateocracy gets arrested. And I think that it's kind of funny because Riley's kind of happy because his life is spared, but then he's also mad that the police arrested them because, you have to kind of not defund the police. You have to make sure the police do the right thing. And in this case, they arrested 3 people who were causing so many crimes. And then also, he said the best way to solve a nigga moment is jail. And that just means that sometimes you have to call the police. You have to put restraining orders on people because that is a way of preventing those, fights. And as Huey said, every single time there's a nigga moment or whatever going on, makes the black race look bad if it's black people participating. And, using restraining orders and other things as a way of just preventing that look. It's saying, people could do it legally without doing it illegally and whatever. People being sophisticated versus looking like the black thug. I'm sorry, I'm a little tired. But there's definitely a lot of talking points in this episode. I really enjoyed this. This is one of the best episodes of the whole series. And I'm also happy to say that this is the last episode that I'm going to review because I've done all 55 episodes of the Boondocks. Very awesome show, and it's worth talking about. So I'm happy to have gotten this done. This was a great ending, and I definitely have a part 2 to my review and analysis of the Boondocks coming up soon.